Welcome to my castle.
Everybody, my name is Jenny. This is Senior Perspective, and today we are going to be talking about the series called Traitors, which is on Peacock and it's free. I highly recommend you go and start with episode 1 if you haven't yet.
Amidst this world of bloodshed, I am your humble narrator. So step inside, stay a while in the company of the traitor.
All right, I have notes here from episode 3. Let's start talking about what happened in episode 3. I feel like episode 3 is when it started to take off for me. Episode 3 is the first time that when the episode ended, I thought, oh, I'm really looking forward to seeing the next episode. And then I was excited to see that episode 4 was out. I'm a little behind. I thought there were only 3 episodes out. Okay, so here we go. We get to the reveal at the end of the night, of the previous night, and that's how episode 3 opens up. So Dan and, I always want to call her MJ. I don't know why. Dan and Phaedra. Phaedra and MJ are kind of like the same kind of personalities, but on their 2 different respective shows. Anyway, okay, so Phaedra and Dan reveal their cloaks, and Parvati does too, and she's shocked. She had zero suspicion that the 2 of them were traitors. So I guess they're doing a good job. Now together, the 3 of them as traitors have to now decide who they are going to kill. And Parvati pretty much deters to them and says, like, you guys are already established here. I'm the newbie. Let me just like ride your coattails for a little bit. They narrow it down to Marcus, which I think is very smart. I mean, I would get rid of the other half, but Marcus is smarter than Larsa. So in terms of people figuring them out, Larsa might cause a lot more problems for being so loud, but I think Marcus might cause problems just in terms of him figuring out who the traitors are. So that was one of the names on their list to possibly kill that night. They also had Janelle down. And not because she was really on to anybody at that point, but just because Dan knows her from Big Brother as being a very good and competitive player. And so it would just be getting a competitive person out. And then the third person was Deontay. I'm not sure the whole rationale behind Deontay. I can't remember what it was. But at any rate, they go ahead and they decide on Marcus, which I think is a good choice. I just have here in my notes, Phaedra is winning with 2 exclamation marks. I wrote, she's befriending all the girls. She's funny. She's good at acting. She's good at being deceptive. She's a lawyer. She's smart. I just wrote she's winning. Like, she's doing well. Like, I don't think anyone even slightly suspects. I think there's some suspicion of Dan being a traitor, but I think there's zero suspicion of Phaedra at this time. In terms of who's suspecting other people, Deontay is suspecting Max because as the cameras show, he kind of slides in and out of rooms and doesn't say a whole lot. And if he walks into a room and a conversation's happening and people are like, oh, come on in, he's like, oh, that's okay. And he backs out and he's just kind of acting odd. But I think he's just being himself. But nevertheless, he looks suspicious. Trishelle is now suspecting Dan because he's so quiet, but because Trishelle also suspected Peppermint and completely whiffed on that one, I'm thinking she's probably not going to have a whole lot of people rallying behind her on what she thinks right now. So Dan might be okay in terms of Trishelle putting him up on her list. So this episode's challenge, they're at a graveyard. Money is hidden in the graveyard in some of the is it called a mausoleum when they're built above ground? I think they're mausoleums. So I think there's some of them inside of there. There's some that are buried in the ground that they have to dig out and pull out of the ground, and they're bags of money. But as they're running through the cemetery and doing this, there are 2 spotlights that are going around. If the spotlight hits you, it suddenly turns all red and you have to go and leave the game. You do the walk of shame. Very different from the walk of shame from college. So you do the walk of shame and the red light follows you the whole way till you leave the graveyard area. There's only so many people allowed out there at a time, and so when one person would leave, they would substitute another person in from the other side. And those lights were catching people right and left. They were not doing a good job of getting money. Everyone was getting caught in them. Slowly, the bank of people who were substituting went all the way down to the last person. And Bergie, throughout this, kept saying, hey, wait, no, I think I see the pattern. Don't go over there. Nobody's listening to Bergie. There was some female voice, I don't know who it was, who just kept saying, like, stop, no, it's not the pattern. You're wrong. There's not a pattern. And I don't know who that female was. They didn't have a camera on her, but she kept insisting that Bergie didn't know what he was talking about. Plus, nobody was taking him seriously. Nobody was really listening to him. If one person would have said, even if I thought they were the dumbest person there, could have been Larsa. I don't know if she's the dumbest person there. All right, that was probably mean. I didn't have to say that. Could have been whoever the dumbest person is there. And they said, there's a pattern to these lights. I figured it out. I instantly would be like, great, tell me. I can't believe nobody was listening to him. It just shocked me. It absolutely shocked me. So, of course, people are dying right and left. And then eventually, some guy who's off to the side says, hey, listen to Bergie. He's figured out the pattern with the lights. So finally, people are listening to Bergie, and he's like, that one's going to go here. You follow me here. You go there. You go there. And everybody was following what Bergie said, and they were all being successful, and nobody's getting caught in the lights now. So go, Bergie. I have here in my notes, Bergie kept saying, there's a pattern, and whatever the female was kept yelling, the pattern doesn't work. I don't even know what that means. The pattern doesn't work. There were also 3 shields hidden as well here, and the 3 people who got the shields were Tamara, Janelle, and Peter from The Bachelor. A little bit of a tiff between Janelle and Ekin-Su. It seemed clear that Janelle was there first. She was reaching in. She was trying to get it. Ekin-Su came up behind her and reached in. And Janelle kind of like butted her, like, get out of here. And Ekin-Su made a big deal about it. Like, she hurt me. It's ridiculous. You mad, you mad, you mad. You blame everybody else for every problem that you can. I didn't think I was going to like Janelle at all at first, but I do, as of now, anyway. We'll see what happens in the future. Ekin-Su seems a little weak to me. I would think in all these challenges, you're going to get beat up and hurt and all that. So for to say, she pushed me, she hurt me, she just seems like a princess. I can't relate. My opinion, just my opinion, not a fan. Eventually, Bergie gets caught in the light. He got too confident in the timing of things, and he got caught in a light, and he had to go out. He got a hero's welcome. Everybody that was on the side when he was coming, they're all clapping, high-fiving, like, yes, Bergie. So that was a feel-good moment of the episode. I have a few people written down here of who people are suspecting now. So now we have Kevin thinking that it's Janelle, but he has zero rationale. Kevin may not be the brightest. Peter, who's talking to Kevin, seems a lot brighter and able to figure things out. And he's like, no, what? No, not Janelle. He points out Janelle has been so aggressive at getting both of the shields. She wouldn't put a target on her back. Like, the traitor wouldn't do that. So it's not Janelle. MJ thinks it's Dan. Not because of any strategy or any facts, but simply because he's quiet, which I don't think is a great reason, but the reality is Dan is one. But I still don't think it's a great rationale. Deontay still thinks it's Max, and he's now thinking it's Max because he said that at breakfast when it was revealed who didn't show up, who was killed, that Deontay said that Max didn't seem surprised at all. So, all right. And then Peter is talking with Kevin, and Peter comes up with the strategy. He's like, listen, I think the two of us should start getting into a fight with each other, and then we put each other's names down because we don't like each other. And I think that that would just make people think that because we're creating such a ruckus that we're not going to be the traitor. And He thinks people will be less likely to vote for them. They're going to want to keep them around more because they create a distraction. Like the traitors are not going to vote for them because they like how this argument's going on and it's taking the heat off of the actual traitors. I think it's a good, this is like well thought out, as opposed to he's shy or he's a politician as our rationale for why somebody is a traitor. So in the round table at the end of this episode, Dan gets off scot-free because Deontay starts throwing out Max. He shares all his reasons why. Other people are kind of chiming in like, yeah, I get that. I don't, I'm not sure. I don't know what Lars is saying. I didn't write it down here. I apologize. But in my notes, I just wrote, I worry about Larsa. I knew she should have been gone. So Larsa did something or is pointing something out. It might be the whole Dan thing because she was really on to Dan too for being quiet. Okay, I have a note written here. I don't really remember this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I have it written down. I have that MJ pointed out that Sandra and Deontay have to be careful because they're so influential. And the first two vote-offs, which were Peppermint and Marcus, were both faithfuls. Although I don't remember Sandra and Deontay being really vocal about that. That was Trishelle that really pushed for that. So I don't know. I guess Deontay eventually jumped on the bandwagon. I don't remember Sandra being that forceful in any of these, but maybe she did. And if she did a good job because she kind of flew under the radar for me. And I do have a note here too that says, I'm really surprised at this point. Nobody is suspecting Sandra or Sandra, depending on the person and how they pronounce it. Sandra's a 2-time winner of Survivor. And she seems like she's always holding information in. Like I would be so suspicious of her. I would think she's either the traitor or she's going to figure out who the traitor is. And she's somebody I would want to get out of there just because I think that she's very clever in her game playing. But so far we haven't seen anything related to that. I think it's shocking. So they all do their voting. It comes out that Max has the most votes. He goes up there and he says, I'm just going to keep this short and sweet. You guys are completely on the wrong track. I am not a traitor. I'm a faithful. And he leaves. Deontay takes this very hard because I think Deontay was actually friends with Max and then suspected him and then eventually called him out and then got him out of the game as well. And I mean, he was so affected by Peppermint, who he wasn't even close with. If he was close with Max, I could see how this is hitting him even harder to the point that he was laying down saying, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And his eyes were closed, but tears were rolling down his face. Like, he is really taking this hard. He is not separating the game from reality at all. So I felt for him, and I just thought, do we not have anyone in production that can help this poor guy out? Deontay said, I don't know how much longer I can go on. My heart hurts too much. It should not hurt. It's just a game, Deontay. I mean, I'm touched that he has such a tender heart. I think that's amazing, especially for being a boxer. Pretty aggressive sport for somebody with a tender heart. He's very sensitive. And this is when it starts to get good. The traitors that night find out they're not going to meet in the room to discuss with each other who is going to die. Instead, they're going to murder in plain sight. This is when the hook came that I went, oh, okay, this is good. This is good. I have a feeling season 1 maybe didn't go this way because they all seemed very shocked by the murder in plain sight thing. But I think that should happen often because it was a fantastic twist. So the instruction that the traitors were given was that evening they were all getting together and they were having a social hangout that evening. Okay. As they were all socializing and eating and drinking that evening, they had to do the murder. In order to do the murder, they had to go to the library. In the library, find the trilogy of Shakespeare books, pull it out, and it really was just one big fake book. Open it up, get the chalice out of it, which is going to be the poisonous chalice, and get somebody to drink from it, or at least to put it to their lips. That's the instruction. The instruction was somebody had to touch it to their lips. So of course they were going to get something to pour into it and all that, and that was how were they going to get somebody else to drink from that. I did notice that that was the first night that it, well, maybe every night they had it, but it's the first night that I noticed everybody was walking around with different goblets and chalices. So that is what they, which is normal in a castle. It's very castleware, if you will, instead of flatware, silverware, castleware. So there are these beautiful goblets and chalices that people were carrying around. It seemed like everybody had a different one. So this one would then just blend right in. And the Traitors had to figure out how are they going to get somebody to drink from that one covertly to poison them that evening. They had until midnight to do it. The way they decided to do it is apparently somehow Phaedra said she's going to leave it to both Dan and Parvati to figure out how to poison because they can collaborate together, because Phaedra said she's not really in their clique as much, she doesn't talk to them as much or something like that, so she was leaving it up to them. So she didn't know how it was going to go down. The plan was between Dan and Parvati that they were going to get Sheree to drink from the cup. I don't know if I agree with that philosophy. I don't see Sheree at all as a threat or a loudmouth. I mean, she is on Real Housewives of Atlanta, but she really hasn't been in this episode. She doesn't seem threatening at all. She's actually a very good friend of Phaedra's, so I couldn't quite figure out if they were doing this for that reason, like do it first, apologize later to Phaedra, knowing that Phaedra would never agree to poison her because they are good friends, so maybe this is the opportunity to do it. I don't know, but they knew they had to do a female. Well, Parvati was trying to figure it out. She's like, I'm going to bartend for everyone, and got behind the bar because Sheree was sitting at the bar with like 10 other people. So, and she wasn't like asking Parvati if she wanted a drink or anything like that, and Parvati was like trying to see if she can get people drinks. Everybody had drinks. It just wasn't working. And she's looking at the minutes clicking away on the clock and thinking, okay, I have to go to plan B. She probably could have gotten John. John was sitting there talking away to her, but they decided they really need to get a female out because there have been all these males that have gone out. I think her target was MJ after that, but she could not figure out any way to get MJ to drink out of this cup. Now, she had like a bottle of, I don't know, water, vodka, I don't know what it was, that she was going to pour into it. But Parvati pointed out at that point that this chalice that she had looked like it was old and rusty. And she thought, I'm never going to get MJ to drink from this. She's not going to want to put her lips on this. This isn't going to work. And then Ekin-Su comes in and they're talking and laughing, and Parvati just has it in her hands and she's like, cheers. And she goes, oh, you can have a drink from this. And Ekin-Su takes a drink from it and hands it back to her. And so the deed is done. All right. It touched her lips. They all go to bed. That's the end of episode 3. So in the morning, Ekin-Su will be dead. Right? Or will she? Come back for episode 4.